Welcome back to my studio. Today, I want to speak directly to those of you who feel frustrated because you're not making the time to paint. This is something that I have heard from so many of you, and it's also a challenge that I really relate to. If you are watching tons of painting tutorials, soaking up information, but the one thing you're actually missing is real painting time, all right, does this sound like you? I want you to be honest. You feel inspired by others, but then nothing happens on your own canvas? Well, the result is usually frustration, or a lot of guilt. You know you're capable of so much, but you're just not seeing the progress because the time simply isn't happening. If you're running into this challenge, I want you to watch this video, because by the end, you're going to have the tools necessary to break this cycle. And if you're finding the lack of time frustrating and painful, I am here to help. We're going to dive into how we can shift your habits so that your painting practice grows, even when life is busy. I recently sent out an email to over 4,000 artists, asking them to share their biggest frustration in their art practice. And over 90% of the people who replied told me the same thing. They just aren't finding the time to paint. And I get it. Between a day job, household responsibilities, other hobbies, significant others, kids, it is easy to push your painting to the side. But here's something that might help you reframe things. So a classmate of mine from back in elementary school, he, by high school, was a star athlete. He was varsity for basketball, for soccer. He was practicing those daily. He watched about every sporting event that you could. He was obsessed with sports. But deep down, his dream wasn't about making it as an athlete. What he really wanted was to be a writer. And one day, his basketball coach, he had like a personal coach on the side who was helping him potentially get recruited into a college to play for a college team. And his coach asked him, well, if your real goal is to be a writer and not to be a basketball player, are you writing every day? And my classmate said, when I have time. And the coach laughed and said, imagine if you said that about basketball. Do you think you would be any good? He later told me that comment shifted everything for him. And it's something I think about a lot when it comes to painting. If painting is your passion, your dream, if it's the one way that you feel like you can express your soul with the world and connect with other people on a way that you just can't with words, how can you expect to accomplish that if you only get to it when you have time? So to help with this, one of the most helpful tools that I've come across that have helped me when I've been in this position is Steven Pressfield's book, The War of Art. It's small, it's an easy read, but it is packed with wisdom about overcoming resistance. That mental block that stops us from creating. I have it in paperback, I have it on Kindle, I have it on Audible, because sometimes I find myself just revisiting it almost compulsively whenever I realize that I'm just not painting as much as I want. I really like having a physical copy in my studio as a reminder that I have to look at in order to break through resistance and get to work. But I also really like having it on Audible just because I can listen to it while I'm painting. Or I can start listening to it, realize that I'm really just making excuses, and I can keep listening to it while I come into the studio and paint. So this book can really help you to recognize how resistance shows up, and more importantly, how to move past it. It's also just highly motivational. So if you think that the time issue that you're running into is largely one of motivation, I would highly recommend checking out Steven Pressfield's book. And if you're struggling with the time required for oil painting specifically, I totally get it. So I would recommend downshifting to something more accessible in a case like this one. Because oil painting does take a lot of time, especially if you're working alla prima. You have to lay out your paint, you have to make time to complete an entire piece in one sitting while everything is wet. Again, if working alla prima is your priority. And you have to factor in time for cleanup at the end so you don't ruin your brushes or waste a ton of paint. This can just be logistically really prohibitive for a lot of folks. So this is why I really like this idea of downshifting to something like working in a sketchbook with something like pencil or charcoal or gouache. Keeping a small sketchbook and a pencil nearby, it really helps you to explore your creative practice consistently, even if you only have 5 minutes. And I can guarantee you, all of us have 5 minutes. Whether it is a quick sketch of what's outside your window or a portrait of a character on your favorite TV show that you're watching, this really helps you to stay engaged with art. Sketching helps you to keep your drawing skills sharp, it helps you thinking about form, and it maintains your creative momentum even if you can't actually get to the easel every day to do some oil painting. I think about this often. I've heard the financial advice of make a habit of saving and investing every month, even if it's like $1, because as soon as you actually have more money to save or more money to invest, you're already in the habit, and it's much easier to just turn up that dial and increase the amount that you're putting in versus trying to start from nowhere. The same thing is absolutely the case with painting and creativity. If you have a regular sketchbook practice and so you're in a regular routine with sketching, shifting it to painting is going to be much easier than going from a complete standstill creatively to getting into the studio and working on full oil paintings. So keeping that small daily creative practice, even if it's not painting, makes a huge difference. And if you're struggling to make painting a priority and finding your style or knowing what to paint is really holding you back, I've created a full free PDF guide to help you through this. The guide is going to help you to reconnect with your painting goals and create a practice that genuinely fits into your life. You can download it using the link in the description below. Remember, watching videos can be really helpful, but nothing replaces time actually spent doing. Sometimes we can use research and education as a form of procrastination. I am incredibly guilty of this. So know that you're not alone, but it doesn't need to hold you back. I believe that you can break through the frustration, and I'm here to support you every step of the way. So in the comments, let me know if any of the tips that I give in this video are helpful, especially let me know if one of them really helped you above all else. And until next time, keep showing up for your art, even if it's just a little bit at a time. Happy painting.